but Jeremy rocking the same team that we saw Ashton Cox use earlier. This is a team that they developed together, placed first and second at Memphis Regionals with, and you heard Ashton on the interview earlier. He says we don't need to make any changes.
Yeah, and it's just so good, isn't it? It is compromised of the Xerneas, Smeagol, Lunala, Incineroar, Crobat, and Toxicroak, and then over on Angel's side of the field, he's running a team of Venusaur, Xerneas, Incineroar, Talonflame, Serena, and Groudon.
So I think, Talonflame definitely the first thing that jumps out to both of us here. A Pokemon that was actually very popular in 2016, the last time we had the Legendaries around, but has been nerfed significantly due to its ability. But, it's actually a tech that makes a ton of sense on Angel's team composition. It specifically deals with the Tornadus Kyogre matchup, that really, really popular team archetype. And unfortunately, it's not going up against the Tornadus Kyogre, so I'm not sure we'll see it as much here. It still actually can put on a lot of pressure against the Toxicroak specifically, but I am not entirely expecting Angel to bring it. Jeremy, on the other end, rocking some Pokemon that we've already seen a lot of. It's a little bit tough to bring the Toxicroak here specifically because you've got the Sun, you've got potentially Talonflame, but also just Incineroar, a bunch of scary things to stare down. But once again, no surprise to see a Xerneas versus Xerneas kind of war, which has really been the entire name of the stream, like this entire weekend so far.
Yeah, I really want to see the Talonflame, but like you say, it feels like it's maybe not the best pick here, but who knows, Angel might have...
There's certainly use. You could potentially quick guard to block Incineroar fake outs in case you want to stop them from fake outing your Xerneas to Geomancy. You could Brave Bird Toxicroak, potentially stop Smeargle a little bit as well. So we'll have to see, but I feel like Angel's got a really good core here with Groudon, Incineroar, Xerneas, and Venusaur. So I kind of expect to see those, and yeah, we do see Groudon and Venusaur right from the start.
So Groudon, Venusaur coming out for Angel, and we are going to see Crobat and Lunala come out for Jeremy here in the field.
The Crobat is also kind of a fun throwback. We see Talonflame and Crobat, both very popular Tailwind users back in the 2016 format. So the Angel here, the Venusaur puts on a lot of pressure. It's going to be the fastest Pokemon on the field, but Crobat here typically has safety goggles, so it can't even put it to sleep. It goes straight for a Tailwind. Lunala is just going to want to avoid a Sleep Powder. Safe play just to protect him Tailwind, I'd imagine.
Yeah, as we see the Lunala protect the Sleep Powder into that Lunala here as the Crobat goes for a Tailwind, doubling the speed on Jeremy's side of the field, and we're waiting to see a Stone Edge come out from the Groudon, and it does miss that Crobat. That is a huge, huge turn for Jeremy here, because you would imagine that Stone Edge from the Groudon would be picking up the knockout on the Crobat.
Yeah, definitely. We already get some important information. Stone Edge coming out from Groudon. Not all Groudons typically have Stone Edge, and I imagine it would have done a lot of damage if not knocked it out. So Jeremy playing it safe this first turn. Typically Crobat's pretty safe against Groudon, but it does reveal that it has an offensive threat. Crobat now kind of in an awkward spot, but it could taunt the Venusaur just so that your Lunala still can't get Sleep Powdered. Could maybe just go for a Super Fang, and we are going to see the taunt just to make sure no Sleep Powders come out.
Coming out from the Crobat onto the Venusaur, going to prevent that Sleep Powder this turn with a Moongeist Beam following up from Jeremy's Lunala. Which Pokemon is going to target? You've got to imagine probably into Groudon. It is into the Groudon.
That's so much damage.
Wow. Over 50% damage, and a Stone Edge coming out, and this time it does connect with the Crobat and does pick up the kill, taking the Crobat down. Does this fall into Jeremy's plan? Does he want the Crobat gone? Because as you said, that previous turn, he's not really putting on too much pressure. He wants to get something in that can really take advantage of this Tailwind now. So I don't know if he minds. He's got the taunt onto the Venusaur, can't use Sleep Powder. It's not really causing too many issues here. It's obviously got the Sludge Bomb that can threaten the Xerneas, but I feel like this is probably playing into Jeremy's hands. The Groudon as well is pretty low health now, so it's going to feel threatened from the Angel side of the field.
Absolutely. Xerneas here can just go for a Geomancy. Lunala can go for a safe Moongeist Beam into Groudon, and Venusaur can't Sleep Powder, so you can't even shut them down completely. Most you can do is maybe go for a Sludge Bomb onto the Xerneas, maybe hope for a critical hit, but the Stone Edge miss on Crobat definitely hurt a lot because it means that the Venusaur could not go for Sleep Powder any longer, just shutting down that option completely. But of course, that's the risk you run when you do run an inaccurate move like Stone Edge. So Jeremy has gotten the Tailwind up, he has the speed control, and now he's in a position to potentially just set up for free with the Xerneas while getting free damage off with the Lunala as well.
As the Groudon goes out for Angel and Incineroar places it coming in. Going to cycle that Intimidate onto Jeremy's side of the field. Not really going to make too much difference on both of these special-based attackers as Moongeist Beam comes out from Lunala. But I imagine it's probably into that Groudon to take that down. Range was at. You see it's the Incineroar, which will be able to take that. It's not very effective being a Dark type. And there it is. There's the Geomancy from the Xerneas. That power boost and the special attack, special defense, and speed going to activate the power herb and become a real threat now on Jeremy's side of the field. You've got to imagine that these targets down the Xerneas, but Angel at the same time has to worry about that shadow shield. He wants to maybe break that.
Yeah.
So
it's a tough call, really, but either way, he is actually going to target down the Xerneas. I mean, a critical hit, you'd imagine, wow, that would really completely change things. And we do get a poison, but for Jeremy, that was, I think, the safest play possible, and I also think that was Angel's best play, where if you stay in with Groudon and just feints, at least here you get Incineroar, you get some fake-out pressure, and you're slowly stalling away the taunt on the Venusaur. But we do know that this Lunala does carry the Psych Up as well, so it's going to be a real big threat. And one of the things, however, that's a little bit tough for Jeremy's team is dealing with Incineroar can be tricky as Xerneas slowly gets chipped down and feints. And so here you got the fake out pressure on Xerneas. It's going to take more poison. Xerneas here has to decide, okay, do I protect? You don't want to take a fake out on the Sludge Bomb. Maybe Angel capitalizes off that and like Sludge Bombs and knockoffs the Lunala. But no fake out, no protect, nothing.
Moonblast coming out from Xerneas into the Incineroar. Is it going to be enough? It is enough to pick up the KO on Angel's Incineroar. That is going down. And there is the Psych Up from the Lunala. It is going to copy those stat boosts from the Xerneas and get those +2s across the board as Sludge Bomb comes out from the Venusaur into the Lunala, picking up the poison and breaking that Shadow Shield.
Yeah, so poison is nice, but I think Jeremy got the better end of the read there. He was expecting the Incineroar not to go for the fake out onto Xerneas, probably expecting the Sludge Bomb knockoff double up onto Lunala, calls it correctly, gets the knockout. That effectively, I would imagine, should seal up the game there. It was a really great prediction there by Jeremy, and it was one that obviously is like slightly risky, but it's pretty safe in the sense that you either get the knockout or you get the boost off with Lunala. So he already was in the advantage because he had the boost set up, and the Venusaur just being taunted, preventing it from Sleep Powdering made it pretty useless, especially after the Xerneas got the Geomancy boost off.
Yeah, now that Jeremy's sitting here with 2 boosted Pokemon into the field, it just feels a little bit maybe too much for Angel to come back from at this point. But we will see. He still has resource left, so he's still got options. But the Psyshock going to come out from the Lunala into the Venusaur. Will be revealing an item. It is going to be that Focus Sash, so just hanging on there. Not going to faint this turn, but you've got to think this is going to be followed up with an attack from Xerneas here, and it is into the poison zone. So Venusaur's going to be able to get an attack off here from Angel. You can imagine probably into that Xerneas here with the Sludge Bomb coming out and targeting that Xerneas, and it will pick up the knockout. But at the same time, the Lunala is still sitting pretty safe on the field as the sunlight does fade.
Yeah, and it's tough to imagine Jeremy losing this one. I mean, dealing with one of the boosted Pokemon is really tough enough. Angel wasn't able to get any mileage off his Xerneas. Pokemon have all taken so much damage already, and you've got Groudon out, but Lunala's not taking really any damage from the Venusaur. Incineroar can just fake out and you can move Ghost Beam, and we should see a game 2 pretty quickly. But that Stone Edge miss in the beginning definitely very unfortunate, because you saw how long Venusaur stuck around. It's been around since the first turn of the game, and if it weren't taunted and if that initial Stone Edge connected, that's immediate pressure you get with Sleep Powder every turn, and it means that Xerneas can't just Geomancy for free, because if it Geomancies, it gets potentially risked to put to sleep. So it's one where, yeah, that early Stone Edge miss and the smart taunt onto the Venusaur really just put Jeremy in such a commanding position right from the get-go.
Yeah, I think to just reiterate your point there, it's a really good point. And I think that the one thing about that Stone Edge miss as well that kind of stacks up with the effect of that was, it wasn't just the Venusaur avoiding the taunt, it was the Groudon. If it picked up the KO onto the Crobat that turn, then the next turn it could concentrate on maybe breaking that Shadow Shield on the Lunala.
Right, there's just so much more pressure.
Yeah, that miss has just stacked up so much. It was really unfortunate for Angel. I don't think his game plan there was wrong at all. I think it was a really good game plan going into it. It was just very unfortunate how it's played out. So maybe sticks with that same game plan, because I feel like if you can execute it and your moves hit, it probably will work out for you. It's still very hard going up against the Lunala, and you need to really deny that Psych Up from the Lunala if you can't deny the initial Xerneas boost as well.
Yeah, in terms of adjustments, I mean, once again, like Talonflame and Toxicroak are Pokemon I don't really imagine seeing too much use in this matchup. I think Serena really not the best, and Angel's core 4 still work out quite nicely here. Jeremy, maybe he didn't bring the Smeargle the last game. Smeargle's always like an adjustment you could potentially make just as a mix-up, even if you feel comfortable with game 1. It's just something that can throw your opponent off guard. It's got redirection as well, which can be pretty good, especially because now you know there is the Stone Edge potential from the Groudon. But, you know, Xerneas and Lunala are both so good, you want to bring both of those. Crobat is your main means of speed control, and then, you know, Incineroar, just like, you can bring Incineroar to any game of VGC 2019 and it's always super, super good. But I wouldn't be too surprised to see the same Pokemon, just played out a little bit differently. I feel like Angel's lead was still the best option that he had. He could consider going for something like Incineroar and Xerneas just to put on pressure, but the thing is, like, that matches up kind of poorly against Crobat because of Inner Focus and Taunt. So I feel like Angel went with the best lead last time. He just got slightly unfortunate because of the Stone Edge miss. Jeremy, on the other hand, he has the potential. He probably expects the Groudon Venusaur, so maybe he adjusts his lead and tries to counter that.
Yeah, so it will be interesting to see how both players do adjust, but like you say, I'd expect Angel to probably lead the same. That Venusaur just puts on so much pressure with its chlorophyll ability, its speed doubling under the sun, and it becomes a big threat straight away, you know, threatening with those sleep powders, and it is something that Jeremy needs to take into consideration and deal with very quickly.
But Talonflame comes out. That's exciting.
So Talonflame is making an appearance for Angel with Groudon and Crobat Lunala coming out for Jeremy. Talonflame.
Not something I really expected to see too much here, but I like the idea with the Groudon lead specifically. You put on more offensive pressure, and you can Flare Blitz, which does a lot of damage. We, once again, know that the Groudon Stone Edge will one-shot the Crobat. More importantly, the main reason Jeremy was able to kind of steamroll over Angel that last game was because of Tailwind. Now you can match the Tailwind with Talonflame. That being said, Groudon is still going to be slower in the upcoming turns, and no Tailwind from Crobat.
We are going to see a Super Fight into the Groudon. And a Moongeist Beam from the Lunala from Jeremy's side of the field. It is probably going to be doubling up into that Groudon. Yeah. Will it be enough to pick up the knockout onto Groudon before it's able to attack?
Should be.
And it is. Yeah. So that's a very big play from Jeremy.
Absolutely. You know, you can imagine Angel could have just protected the Groudon, and then Crobat, and then you get the Tailwind up, and suddenly now you outspeed the Crobat too, potentially under Tailwind. But Jeremy going for the call there, saying, I don't care if you set up Tailwind, that's fine, because your Talonflame shouldn't really be able to do too much. But now the thing is, there's actually pressure from the Talonflame, a Flare Blitz into the Crobat under the sun. May do a lot of damage, especially if Talonflame's got an attack increasing item, and potentially maybe Crobat doesn't even set up the Tailwind this game. Xerneas could Geomancy, but then Lunala actually has the potential to psych up the opposing Geomancy, which I think could be really interesting. So imagine Jeremy's probably going to just want to stay in with this Pokemon. I mean, you could switch out into Incineroar. I think that's also a mighty fine play. And we actually are going to see Crobat switch out, so wouldn't be surprised to see Incin come in here.
Like Aaron says so well, the Incineroar coming in for the Crobat on Jeremy's side of the field. And cycle that Intimidate, more importantly, onto the Talonflame rather than the Xerneas, just to weaken those flying and fire type attacks as we see a Flare Blitz come out, and it probably is into that what was Crobat slot. Now the Incineroar, because of its fire typing, able to take that quite comfortably. Not very effective attack even in the sun. Recall damage breaking the Gale Wings ability on the Talonflame as a Dazzling Gleam comes out from the Xerneas on Angel's side of the field, followed up by a Moongeist Beam from the Lunala now, and you've got to imagine it's probably into that Talonflame slot.
Yep, that should be a clean knockout onto the Talonflame. Oh, it actually doesn't! Wow. Surprised by the bulk from that Talonflame, but lots of great plays there, actually. So Angel opted not to Geomancy because he was fearing the Lunala Psych Up, and then Lunala didn't go for the Psych Up, opted just go for an attack. So Jeremy, I think, once again gets the better end of the trade here, but of course, Talonflame, I mean, Tailwind is still up on Angels, and Talonflame being able to survive means it will get another attack off, but of course, there is the Fake Out potential right now from Incineroar. Talonflame, of course, however, gets access to Quick Guard, so could potentially bypass that through going for a Quick Guard. You could also switch out if you want to conserve and maybe get up another Tailwind by switching out, and there are a lot of mind games now, once again. You know, does Xerneas Geomancy? Does Lunala Psych Up? There's a Quick Guard.
Quick Guard coming out from Talonflame, going to prevent any Fake Out from that Incineroar this turn from Jeremy's side of the field. We do see the Fake Out. It is blocked by that Quick Guard onto the Xerneas. So Xerneas now able to Geomancy. Angel going to boost up that Xerneas and get the party started.
But did Jeremy call it? Did he go for the Psych Up? It's a big play to go for the Quick Guard as well. Jeremy kind of walks into that trap, because if you're expecting Quick Guard Geomancy, you could actually just launch a Flare Blitz into the Xerneas under Sun that does so much damage. But going for the safer play of Fake Out, Quick Guard does help the Xerneas out. And do we see a Psych Up now?
No Psych Up, just a Moongeist Beam, which target is it into this time? Gotta imagine it's gonna be that Talonflame again. You feel like that's the biggest problem for Jeremy right now. He wants to get rid of it, but it's not. Talonflame is going to stick around, it is into the Xerneas, and because of that Geomancy boost, it is able to take that Moongeist Flame pretty comfortably.
Yeah, and now Xerneas is set up and in a really, really commanding position. Lunala is also quite slow, and Talonflame being able to hang on means it's still threatened with the Flare Blitz, even though it has such low HP. That's one of the most satisfying things where you know you're going to take a lot of recoil, but it's okay because you already have so low HP. So this Talonflame really being the MVP for Angel this next game, it really just countering that Crobat, getting up that Tailwind, even though Jeremy made a great play that first turn. The speed has just been really, really huge for Angel, and this time he's the one with Xerneas set up.
So you see a Protect come out from the Lunala. It is just going to protect itself. Another Quick Guard coming out from the Talonflame as the Dazzling Gleam comes out from the Xerneas on Angel's side of the field, and will only connect with the Incineroar and is enough to take down the Incineroar. So Jeremy is going to lose the Incineroar this time, and the Tailwind does pitter out on Angel's side of the field. But that Talonflame, such low health, but it is just sticking around, isn't it?
Yeah, and I actually like the decision for Angel there not to have gone for an attack, because he knows a Brave Bird or a Flare Blitz will knock out the Talonflame, and he wants to keep it around for another turn of Tailwind, because one of the ways Angel can lose this one is if he loses his Tailwind and then Jeremy manages to set up his own. But his Talonflame is just going to be able to match the Crobat's Tailwind once again, and if you already got a Xerneas boosted, all you need to do is just consistently be faster than your opponent, and by not getting any damage off against the Xerneas, it's going to be really, really difficult for Jeremy to deal with the Xerneas at this point.
And now we are going to see the Xerneas from Angel's side of the field go for that Moonblast, and it is into the Lunala. It will be enough to pick up the knockout there. So Lunala going down for Jeremy's side of the field, and Haze coming out from Jeremy's Crobat, going to remove those Geomancy boosts on Angel's side of the field, and a Tailwind coming out from Talonflame again. Another Tailwind up. That's a huge turn for Angel, and I think you could probably expect the Haze from the Crobat. Crobat's main job normally, especially in previous formats and in this one, is that access to that quick Haze. But the Tailwind there is really important for Angel to get that going into this next turn.
Yeah, the Haze definitely helps out a lot here, though, because at least it gives you a chance. It's anytime you're able to get rid of your opponent's Geomancy boost and you're able to potentially set one up yourself, that's really, big swing potential here. And so Jeremy's not out of it by any means. He needs just to be able to set up the Xerneas properly. He needs to avoid taking too much damage from the Xerneas and Talonflame. You've got to be worried about a potential double up like Flare Blitz and just a Moonblast into the Xerneas. And so potentially can go for a Tailwind of his own as well. Protect Xerneas, maybe Tailwind. Either way, this is going to be a close finish, but Angel Xerneas no longer has those boosts, and Crobat, that makes Crobat a little bit more difficult to hit as well. But Jeremy's main goal is basically to set up Geomancy within the next 2 turns or so.
So we are going to go into this next turn. We are going
to
see
Protect.
Talonflame go for a big Flare Blitz. It is going to be into the Xerneas and do big damage, taking it down to nearly 50%. The Talonflame does take recoil, and it is finally going to faint on Angel's side of the field with a Moonblast coming out. Following up into the Xerneas, double up here. Is that going to be enough? And it is. Oh, that is a big turn for Angel. No Protect there as the Crobat matches the Tailwind. But now, Crobat generally only has access to attack and move Super Fang, which can only do 50% at a time. So it really looks like Angel's going to be able to close this one up now. Yeah,
really 2 potential moves that Jeremy could have made there. You either go for just straight the Tailwind Geomancy, or you Protect Tailwind. And so even if Jeremy called it correctly, I think Angel is still in a favorable position, potentially, just because it would have come down to how the Xerneas interact with each other, but Flare Blitz is still doing so much damage, and the key thing is that Crobat can't knock down Talonflame. You can Super Fang, but Super Fang a Pokemon with 3 HP is just going to bring it down. It's not going to knock it out. Yeah. And so the Talonflame had that opportunity to get that Flare Blitz more or less, and that key Flare Blitz was so big. But yeah, great call there at the end to double up into the Xerneas. No Protect from Jeremy, ends up being on the wrong side of that 50-50, and so we're going to go to a game 3, and Talonflame was literally the MVP of that one, and I'm glad that Angel demonstrated just how good it can be.
Yeah, it's really great to actually see that, and the second time on stream today that we've seen the effects of a very strong fire flying type.
First, the Moltres and now the Talonflame.
Yes.
Yeah,
putting in so much work in that game, and you saw even being able to take that Moongeist Beam was huge. It just allowed it to hang around that little bit longer to get that additional Tailwind off, which really came in as the winning kind of play for Angel, and he really controlled that match very well with the Talonflame, and the Quick Guard coming in very handy as well to get his Geomancy boost off, and yeah, from there it was very good adjustment from Angel, and Jeremy's got a lot to think about going into this next turn. But as we know, we've seen this team many times before. It's got a lot of mods and a lot of different options, so I would imagine he probably will want to adjust.
Yeah, you know, the name of the first 2 games have both been whoever set up Tailwind got their Geomancy off first and just was able to win the game. And so I think now there's a little bit more information on both ends, right? You know that the Talonflame has quick guards, so you can't fake it out as easily. You know that the Moongeist Beam, I was actually still kind of surprised that Talonflame survived at that last game. I was really impressed. Thought surely it was going to go down, but that's also a really key piece of information, right? You're not going to be able to just knock it out with a Moongeist Beam. Maybe it's a damage roll, but it has a chance to survive, which is a big deal. So, I mean, Jeremy, in terms of Pokemon, it's tough, right? Because you want to bring the same 4 Pokemon. So maybe this time you just go for the Tailwind as well in your Crobat instead of just knocking out that Groudon. The Groudon knockout was nice, but then Xerneas was able to just kind of run over. Yeah, Angel's also got some important decisions. You know, do you just go for the Talonflame Groudon lead again? A lot of these times in best of 3s, it's really tricky because it's like, okay, they might expect the Talonflame Groudon. Although looking at Jeremy's team, I guess the best answer, like, you would think, oh, Incineroar, you get the Intimidate, but then there's Quick Guard, and then you're still staring down a Groudon, which can Precipice Blades.
Yeah.
Talonflame can still potentially Tailwind, so maybe Jeremy just sticks with the same lead, but we'll have to see. Smeargle could also definitely put in some work, and Angel's going to switch it up, going back to Venusaur and Groudon. I like that adjustment by him.
That is a very nice adjustment with Venusaur Groudon on Angel's side of the field, and we're going to see the Crobat Lunala again on Jeremy's side. So, repeat of game 1.
Yeah, and we know how that worked out, but once again, I think, like, had the Stone Edge connected with Crobat initially in that game 1, then suddenly Venusaur can launch so many more Sleep Powders, and so maybe Angel just goes for kind of the same play he did, you know, relatively safe. If Lunala attacks and you hit the Sleep Powder, then that's great. And if Stone Edge connects Crobat, that's really great. You could potentially go for a taunt onto the Groudon, or sorry, on the Venusaur instead of Tailwinding, but then that kind of seems like that defeats the purpose because then you trade the Crobat just for a taunt. And so, yeah, I think Angel switching it up here, and it works out quite nicely for him, has, I feel like this was a favorable lead, especially because he had that Stone Edge, but let's see if the Stone Edge can hit this time. But, oh, he actually just switches out.
Groudon not even going to risk it this time.
Doesn't want to get knocked out by a double up. Yeah, I like that.
Incineroar going to come in and cycle those Intimidates onto, again, Pokemon that don't really care too much about the Intimidate here, as we are going to see Protect from Lunala, probably protecting from a potential Sleep Powder coming out from the Venusaur. As we see a Sleep Powder from that Venusaur into that Lunala slot, just covering that. And the Tailwind this time from the Crobat, which is going to set the speed and the tone of the match. Very similar to how Jeremy set up in game 1 here.
Yeah, the Incineroar switching I like. I think one play that Angel was probably fearing was, oh, you know, now he knows I've got Stone Edge and that's going to knock out Crobat, so he might just Super Fang and Moongeist Beam into me, and that would be super bad, especially because if I miss Sleep Powder, then that's, you know, just puts me in a really bad position, at least with Incineroar now. The downside is that Incineroar can't fake out, but you have knockoff, and Sludge Bomb plus knockoff against Lunala could potentially just pick up the knockout. But of course, we could see a double up from the Crobat onto Lunala onto the Venusaur. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, like, the Crobat sticks around for a little bit longer, which I think is probably a little bit more frustrating for Angel. Would have preferred to get that knockout, but it's really risky just staying in front of a Crobat and a Lunala for a potential double up. And I think we're just going to see a double up for a knockout here, potentially.
To see a Super Fang from Jeremy's Crobat into the Venusaur, taking it down to 50% health with a Moongeist Beam, which you've got to imagine is going to be into the Venusaur, which should pick up the knockout onto the Venusaur. It does. Yeah, and the Venusaur going down, but does leave the Incineroar free to attack here, and it is going for a knockoff. It will be into that Lunala, breaking that Shadow Shield and doing a big chunk of damage here, knocking off the Spooky Plate, and yeah, that's it's not the best turn for Angel. He's lost a Pokemon, but at the same time, dealing with that Lunala, we know how threatening that can be, especially, and at the same time, it doesn't feel like Jeremy's really getting too much out of these Tailwind turns. He's not making so much progress here.
Yeah, I think the downside, though, is like Crobat's still around, and Crobat just counters the Xerneas on Angel's End so hard. And Jeremy also has the Tailwind going for him, so it's still a little bit difficult. Yeah, it's still a point where, like, okay, Crobat's not really going to... It can Super Fang. I mean, you could taunt the Xerneas here, which is probably the ideal play, I think, just to stop it, guarantee it from stopping from Geomancy. Lunala is now kind of in an awkward spot where it's like you're not going to be doing too much damage, and you can't touch the Incineroar, so he kind of wants to switch out, but then you don't want to switch out into Xerneas and lose your power up to a knockoff. So, I mean, Jeremy, I would imagine, has the Incineroar in the back. I think that would be a mighty fine Pokemon to switch into. You could maybe switch Lunala into Incineroar, go for like a Tauntaun and Lazernius just to play it super, super safe. Jeremy's main goal in this game really is to get that Geomancy off, and like you said, yeah, it's still anybody's game right now, and there's a switch out.
So we're going to see Lunala switch out for Jeremy, and like you say, Aaron, that Incineroar coming in just to get an Intimidate onto the opposing Incineroar, potentially take a knockoff. It is going to be the safest thing probably on Jeremy's side of the field to come in to take that potential knockoff coming into that slot, and a Protect coming out from Angels. Xerneas doesn't want to take any damage, doesn't want to entertain a taunt either from that Crobat this turn, as a Super Fan comes out into the Xerneas slot, blocked by the Protect and a knockoff into the Incineroar, and is going to take away a Figgy Berry.
Yeah, so I kind of like the play from both players there, where you got to switch out the Lunala. It's not really going to do much, but once again, you can't switch in Xerneas, so Incineroar the safest option. You get that Intimidate off. The Super Fang instead of the Taunt came out, and I like that. I think Angel knows, I have to be worried about Taunt, so maybe I'll just go for a Moonblast. And a Super Fang plus a Flare Blitz potentially just knocks out that Incineroar. So I did see that Protect, and yeah, I think Angel realizes that a Super Fang and a Flare Blitz might knock me out, and Xerneas is my key to winning this, so I have to Protect and switch it out. But this could be just a knockout this turn onto the Groudon slot.
As we see a Super Fang from the Crobat into that Groudon, again going to take it down to 50% health with a Flare Blitz from Jeremy's Incineroar. Doubling into that slot. Is it good enough? It is enough to take down the Groudon, and Angel having to make a sacrifice there. If it wasn't the Groudon, it probably would have been the Xerneas, and like you say, he has got to utilize that Xerneas to really take this game the way he wants to, with a Flare Blitz following up from the Incineroar into the Crobat, doing good damage in the sun with the Tailwind pettering out.
Yeah, so this next turn is going to be interesting. I mean, you can protect the Xerneas and just go for a Flare Blitz onto Crobat, but if Jeremy expects that, then he can just go for a Tailwind. But if you are really scared of Xerneas, you want to go for potentially a Taunt onto the Xerneas, but then let's say Xerneas does protect Incineroar, does knock out your Crobat, then you've got the Geomancy War. Of course, Jeremy does have the Pokemon advantage, but dealing with Incineroar, like his answer against Incineroar is still really mainly that Xerneas. And so even though Angel is down 2-4, the fact that he has Xerneas means that, we just see a Taunt, we don't see a Protect.
So Taunt coming out from Crobat into Xerneas.
Oh, that's such a big call.
And a U-turn coming out from Jeremy's Incineroar. He's going to pivot out with the Incineroar, so he's got that utility to bring it in later to fake out, Intimidate again later in the game.
Yeah, U-turn ends up being a really, really cool option there as well, because it doesn't force you to hard switch and you're able to outmaneuver yourself into a slightly better position. Being able to deny that Geomancy is huge, and we're not going to see a knockoff onto the Xerneas. At least prevented it from the power of the Flare Blitz will knock out the Crobat. The main thing is, though, now you just switch Incineroar back in, fake out Geomancy, and that should be game here for Jeremy. So really, really big call, going for the Taunt, not opting for a Tailwind, just playing it. I think it makes a lot of sense, because it's like, okay, even if Xerneas protects there, then I get the U-turn out, I get Xerneas out, I bring in my Incineroar, and then I can fake out Geomancy regardless. But seeing the Xerneas not go for a Protect just was super, super good on Jeremy's end.
Yeah, and you've got Jeremy's got this board position now where he's free to just fake out with the Incineroar and utilize that Geomancy, and then from there it just seems like it's going to be very difficult for Angel to come back from.
And the lack of Talonflame, definitely, I think, surprised actually a little bit to see Angel not bring it this time around, because it was so good for him that previous game, and really the key member. But ends up keeping it on the bench, and it kind of runs into some of the problems we saw in that first game. That Moonblast does a lot. No special attack drop though.
Fake out from Jeremy's Incineroar into Angel's Incineroar. Going to prevent any attack coming out from it there. Did see the Moonblast from Angel's Xerneas into Jeremy's, doing a huge damage, but Jeremy now able to utilize that Geomancy, that power hit that it has got access to, and boosting up, putting himself in a position where he can just start picking up knockouts now.
Yeah, I mean, that the Xerneas is taunted, so you just Moonblast the Xerneas, switch your Incineroar back out into Lunala. Even if Incineroar crits you with the Flare Blitz, you bring in Incineroar back again, you can just knock off the item, and so we should see Jeremy win this. He should Moonblast the Xerneas here, just because it can't protect, you're guaranteed that knockout. We do see the Moonblast go out into it, and that should be a clean knockout as it is.
Yeah, and picking up the knockout on the Xerneas. And the knockoff coming out from Incineroar, going to remove potential berry, I would imagine a Guava berry on Angel's side of the field, but now with a Flare Blitz back is enough.
No, not even close, yeah.
Enough, unfortunately. And yeah, it doesn't look like
this
too
is
good now.
yeah. You know,
Jeremy's played that so well, hasn't he?
He did, and I think the fear of the double up in that third game definitely made things a little bit more difficult. I was kind of surprised. I felt like the safe. It's easy to call it a safe play, but then you're dealing with Sleep Powder and Stone Edge accuracy, right?
Yeah.
Both of those were actually quite low. Chances of both of them hitting, it's almost around 50-50. So I thought maybe Angel wanted to consider going for just Sleep Powder and Stone Edge like we saw in that first game. Jeremy actually ended up going for the same play, didn't go for the double up, and that ended up being so big here. And that was a really fun set. Talonflame not coming out in that last game meant that Jeremy didn't have to worry about the speed control as much. And for Jeremy's end, I think, those 4 Pokemon, just a very strong core. I'm still impressed that Angel made Talonflame look as good as he did.
Yeah.
And so I would kind of be curious on his reasoning for why he dropped it that third game, because it kind of does something that